I want to tell you about the thing you keep doing that is breaking everything you build. Not on purpose, not consciously, but consistently every single time. You skip essence. You know who you are, or at least you think you do. You know what you're good at. You've done the reflection. You've written the mission statement. You've clarified the niche. Maybe you even done all the inner work everyone says to do. And then you go build. You show up. You create the content. Launch the offer. Start that thing. And somewhere down the line, 3 months in, 6 months in, maybe even a year, something starts to feel wrong. Not broken, just off. Like you're wearing a coat that should fit, but doesn't. Like you're saying words that are true, but not yours. And you think the problem is the strategy, or the platform, or the niche, or the offer. So you adjust, you pivot, you build. And then the cycle starts again. But here's what I know after 17 years of documenting this same pattern for myself. The problem was never the strategy. The problem was that you built before you were done excavating, meaning you skipped essence, and everything you built on top of that incomplete foundation, no matter how good it looked, was always going to collapse. Let's get into this week's episode. Hi, I'm Shae, capacity strategist and researcher, and you're listening to ESSENTFLOW by Shae, Too Much for the Room. This is the podcast for high-capacity people who think deeper, build differently, and have spent too long shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold them. You were never too much. The room was just too small. You found your room. And I welcome you. Today, we're getting into why we skip essence, the first phase of the ESSENTFLOW framework, what it actually costs us when we do, and what becomes possible when we finally stop. Now let's get into it. Let me start with what the research actually shows. One of the 6 core findings from my longitudinal case study is something I call the self-authorization gap. It's the distance between what the evidence shows about your capacity and what your nervous system is willing to accept as true about yourself. And here's what that gap does when it comes to building anything. It makes you believe you're not allowed to start with yourself. Let me say that again, because this is the thing that truly breaks everything. You do not believe you are allowed to start with yourself. You believe, consciously or not, that starting with identity work is self-indulgent, that it's navel-gazing, that it's something you do when you have time and money and luxury, that it's the thing you get to after the business is working. So you skip it. You say, I'll figure it out along the way. I'll clarify as I go. Right now, I need to just build something that works. And then what happens? You build something that works for someone, not for you. Because here's the other research finding that compounds this. Authenticity depletion. It's what happens when you spend sustained energy performing a version of yourself that isn't fully true. And it is distinct from burnout. Burnout happens when you do too much. Authenticity depletion happens when you do the wrong thing. Even if you do it well, even if it's working by external metrics, even if other people think you've got it all together. you can be successful and depleted at the same darn time. That specific combination, the exhaustion that comes from succeeding at something that doesn't fit, that is authenticity depletion. And it only happens when you skip essence. Because essence is not just figuring out who you are. Essence is the excavation of the performed self so you can build from the real one. It's uncomfortable. It takes time. It destabilizes things that looked stable. It asks you to sit in the not knowing longer than you want to. And we skip it. We skip it because we think we don't have time for that. We think we need proof of impact now. We think the market won't wait. We think if we don't move fast, someone else will take our spot. But here's the truth. The research shows over and over again. The faster you skip essence, the slower everything becomes. Because you end up rebuilding again and again. Every time you get close to something that works externally, but feels wrong internally. The self-authorization gap told you that you weren't allowed to start with yourself. So you didn't. And now you're paying for it. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually feels like. You wake up, you check your phone. There are messages, comments, DMs, people engaging with the thing you built. The metrics look good. The content is performing. You should feel excited, validated, like it's working. But instead you feel tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that lives deeper. The kind that makes you want to delete everything and start over even though you can't explain why. You built this, right? You showed up, you did the work, and it's working. So why does it feel like you're drowning? And the best answer to this is because you're performing. Every post, every email, every interaction, you're saying the thing you're supposed to say, not the thing you actually want to say and know is true to you. You're showing up as the version of yourself the algorithm rewarded, not the version that's true. And the worst part? You're good at it. You're great at it. You can do it. The performance is working, which makes it even harder to stop. Because if you stop now, if you admit that this thing you built doesn't actually fit, what does that say about you? It says you failed. No, worse. It says you succeeded at the wrong thing. That is the grief of skipping essence. It's not the grief of failure. It's the grief of almost arriving, of building something real that still doesn't feel like yours, of being seen for a version of yourself that you yourself cannot sustain. And when that grief hits, when you realize that the thing you built is working and you still can't stay in it, that is when most people burn it down. Delete the account, rebrand, pivot, start over. Not because they're flaky, not because they lack commitment, but because their nervous system is screaming that this is not sustainable. That if they keep performing this version of themselves, something is going to break. And they're right. That feeling, that exhaustion wrapped up in success, that is the cost of skipping essence. And it is real. It is 100% real. Now let me name what's actually happening when you skip essence, because the feeling is valid, but we need the language for it. So here's the first cost. You build businesses that don't fit. When you skip essence, you build based on what you think the market wants, what you think will work, what you see working for other people. And maybe it does work, but it doesn't fit your actual nature. It doesn't fit who you truly are. So you're constantly adjusting, tweaking, trying to make the business feel less exhausting. But the problem isn't the business model. The problem is that the business was never built from who you actually are. Cost number 2, you pivot constantly and feel shame about it. Every time you rebuild, you tell yourself, this time will be different. I'll get it right. It'll finally be exactly what I want it to be. And maybe it is, and maybe it does for a while. But if you're still building from an incomplete understanding of who you are, you're going to hit the same wall eventually. The pivot isn't the problem, the pattern is. And the pattern exists because you keep skipping the phase that would actually break it. Cost number 3, you burn out from performing, not from overworking. The burnout you're experiencing isn't about how much you're doing. It's about who you're being while you're doing it. You can work 20 hours a week and still be completely depleted if those 20 hours are spent performing a version of yourself that isn't true. That is authenticity depletion, and no amount of rest fixes it. Because the problem isn't overwork. The problem is misalignment. Cost number 4, you cannot access your actual capacity. Here's what most people don't understand about high capacity people. Your capacity is locked behind your authenticity. When you're performing, you're operating at maybe 40% of what you're actually capable of. The rest of your capacity is being used to manage the performance, to remember who you're supposed to be, to suppress what you actually want to say, to maintain the version of yourself you think you're supposed to be. When you skip essence, you never unlock your full capacity. You stay in survival mode, grinding, pushing, working harder than most people you know, and still feeling like you're not doing enough. That is the cost. Named, clear, documentable. Now let me show you what skipping essence actually costs in terms of your nervous system. Let's get into it. Measured cost number 1, nervous system dysregulation. When you build from a performed identity, your nervous system stays in a low-level state of threat, not panic, not a crisis, just a constant hum of this isn't safe. Your body knows before your mind does that you're not in alignment, and it tries to tell you through exhaustion, through resistance, through the feeling that something is wrong, even when everything looks right on the outside. Are you hearing me? When you ignore that signal and keep building anyway, your nervous system escalates. The resistance gets louder, the exhaustion gets deeper, the dysregulation becomes chronic. Measured cost number 2, capacity depletion over time. Your capacity is not infinite. It is a resource. And when you spend it performing instead of building, you deplete it faster than you can restore it. The metrics might look like growth, more followers, more engagement, more sales, but your internal capacity is shrinking bit by bit. And eventually you hit a wall. Not because you can't do more, but because you cannot sustain what you've already built. Measured cost number 3, the time cost of rebuilding. This one hit home for me. Because every time you skip essence and build something that doesn't fit, you will eventually have to rebuild. And rebuilding takes longer than building right the first time. If Essence takes 3 months and you skip it, you might save 3 months up front. But when you have to tear down what you built and start over, you've lost 6 months, a year, sometimes more. The time you think you're saving by skipping Essence is the time you're going to spend rebuilding every single time. Measured cost number 4, the opportunity cost of misalignment. While you're building something that doesn't fit, you are not building the thing that does. Every month you spend performing is a month you are not building from your actual foundation. And the thing you could have built, the business that actually honors your capacity, the content that actually sounds like you, the offer that people buy because it came from something real, that thing is not getting built. That is the opportunity cost, and it compounds greatly. Now, let me tell you what becomes possible when you finally stop skipping essence work. When you do the excavation work first, when you sit in the discomfort of not knowing, when you destabilize the performed identity, when you dig until you hit something that doesn't move, here's what happens. You build once. Not because you get it perfect, but because you built from something real. So when you need to adjust, you're adjusting the structure, not tearing down the foundation and starting over again. You stop performing. Not because you suddenly have it all figured out, but because the thing you're building is actually aligned with who you are. So you showing up doesn't cost you the same it used to. You're not managing a persona. You're just being present in your being. You unlock your capacity. The energy you were spending on the performance gets redirected into the actual work. And suddenly you can do more. Once again, not because you're pushing harder, but because you're no longer fighting yourself, but working with yourself. You build trust with yourself. Every time you skip essence and end up rebuilding, you're reinforcing a story that can't be trusted to finish what you start. But when you stop skipping it, when you do the work that matters first, and prove to yourself that you can build something sustainable, that trust compounds and it changes everything. Essence is not the part you do when you have time. It is the part that creates time. It is the part that makes everything else possible. And if you've been skipping it, if you've been telling yourself you'll come back to it later, you'll figure it out along the way, you just need to build something that works first, I'm here to tell you, you can stop now. You can go back. You can do the work you skipped. It is not too late. It is absolutely necessary. So here's where we are. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in it, if you've been building and rebuilding and the pattern keeps repeating, the question is not what's wrong with you. The question is, are you ready to stop skipping and avoiding essence? Because here's the truth. You can keep building without it. You can keep pivoting. You can keep performing. You can keep hoping that the next version will be the one that finally feels right. The one that finally sticks. Or you can stop and do the work you've been avoiding. The identity excavation, the clarification, the sitting with what's true even when it's uncomfortable. The essence phase. It will take time. It will destabilize some things. It will not feel productive in the way you're used to measuring productivity. But it's the only way to build something that doesn't break you. And you already know this. That's why you're still listening. So here's the invitation. Stop skipping the part that actually matters. Okay? Start with essence. Not after the business works, not when you have time, not when you're sure. Now. Do it now. Your journey has been trying to tell you this for a while. I'm just giving you the language for it. This is ESSENTFLOW by Shae. Too much for the room. I'm Shae Thomas, capacity strategist and researcher. And if this episode names something you've been living, you know what to do. Share it, save it, come back to it when you need another reminder. The ESSENTFLOW experience is coming in August of this year. It's built for high capacity people who are done skipping the part that matters. If you want early access, get on the wait list at ESSENTFLOWbyshae.com. The website will be in the show notes. Your capacity is not the problem. The system you've been trying to build in is. Let's build something different. You were never too much. The room was just too small. Thank you for being here. You can find everything ESSENTFLOW at ESSENTFLOWbyshae.com. The blog, the digital products, and when it's ready, the adaptive experience of ESSENTFLOW. The newsletter is the Capacity Strategist, and the link is in the show notes. New episodes of ESSENTFLOW by Shae Too Much for the Room drop every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. Until next time, remember, you were never too much. The room was just too small. See you in the next episode.